when the class are having a problem, what do you think I'm going through?
I don't know.
So we consider you one of the smarter people in class.
No,
Right.
no.
You got to carry the class now. She's got to have 10 questions.
No.
You got that, girls?
No.
10 times?
There you go.
Rachel, I do love you very much, but that will not be a good thing if you do that.
I know, Grandma. I'm not. She will call you a wolf or a serpent fighting in an ox.
Write you out of her will, leave you all of her bills.
No, I'll just stop at every stop sign and stay there for a while.
Oh, that would drive her nuts.
Oh,
I hate that too.
when she was a baby, the first time I ever had her in the car, we were going down the street and I stopped at a light and she started screeching like a wild banshee. And I hurried up and jerked the car around and jumped out and she started laughing. And I said, what is so funny and what is wrong with this baby? Mom, she doesn't like stopping. I'm like, oh my Lord.
So when I
So
drove,
then
I literally
timed the
timed it
line.
to where I was rolling to the light just as it was turning green so I could keep going. I'm sure I drove the people behind me nuts, but I was.
And it wasn't a.
But it was because of her
She
stomach.
did. Children.
And I
It was
mean,
because of her
she
stomach.
screamed like a wild baby, like she had been hurt.
It bothered her stomach.
Oh.
Scared the far out of me.
Yeah, I can tell you how many times this stop and go, stop and go, stop and go, where I was getting car sick.
And they thought it was motion sickness.
No.
It's not motion sickness. It's called being trapped in a vehicle with Mike and Charlotte.
We are
We're
streaming.
on streaming?
We are streaming.
Oh, hi Charlotte, Mike. We're good.
Because we have 1 minute till we start officially. So, Mr. Glenn, can you do the closing prayer tonight? I know you did it last week, but I thought
I'd take it, but then y'all would have to leave the room and, you know, it would just be a thing.
I'm still assuming your plan is still on go for next week. You won't be with us. So we won't put your name on 10 times next week. Otherwise, we'll be standing here waiting for you.
Well,
His name on there 10 times. Next week, my name is Glenn.
So you're not on the list? Is next week your name Glenn so that you're not put on the list?
You're right. Yeah.
Or I'll just make you a fill-in for Lynn, and then you can do it twice on the wheel.
No.
There you go.
I like that idea. We cannot have Lynn on the wheel.
Or Laura and Lynn.
Yeah. It'd be all right.
These were some fun definitions again.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to,
defining words with words.
Uh-huh.
Like every
Well-
single one of them had the word
I
in
said
there.
Vera would be proud for how small I wrote.
I'm thinking it was the word competent. I wanted to apologize to you guys that use the Blue Letter Bible, and if you use it
I
on
figured
your
it out.
phone, it was so hard. I'm like, man, I need to get my computer. It's like
It was
it was rough.
Yes.
Yeah, but it was
Yes.
difficult. I
The Key,
well,
Key Sword had it, because I have like the Strongs attached to the King James, but not the
Yeah.
New King James, but I flip back and forth. So the King James version says men of activity.
yeah. So it's like a phrase instead of just one word. And I was searching and
So
searching and
this would
searching,
be with the
and
Blue Letter
littles
Bible.
were running around. Yeah,
There it is,
yeah.
right there.
I mean, littles were running around, screaming, yelling. I'm like, whoa! I have got to come back to this word later, and make
We
an
got there.
make an apology.
Nah.
It worked.
Well, I'm just apologizing. I mean, I was struggling, and because I do have the definitions attached to the New King James. I just click on the word and there's Strong's, but sometimes I like to look at other definitions other than just Strong's.
Added the New King James. I had to pay for it on the Sword.
Yeah.
It was just, it's okay.
So it's not Esort's fault. That would be
No, it's not.
Thomas Nelson's
Right.
fault.
It's not, but,
Yeah.
you know, I figured that's the one I use a lot, so
Yeah.
might as well get it.
That'd be a good investment,
Yeah.
yeah. All right.
Any Bible is a good investment, so.
Well, yeah, but if it's something that if you're primarily using it, it would be smart. Like I wouldn't spend money on the Message. I wouldn't do it because I don't use it.
Really?
Really, I mean, I would just go on YouVersion and read it for free.
Right, for free.
If I would not spend money on the Cotton Patch version. That's just I wouldn't do it.
Pirate one.
The pirate one,
I really want that.
I know,
I really
but they're not cheap. Like I looked for a
No.
couple and they're not cheap.
I think, what was the one I looked at?
It's like, that would be fun to have in my library.
$74.99 or something.
see, not to sound sacrilegious, but you can read the King James with that old English.
No,
Kinda
it would still
sound
be
to
fun
it.
there, 'cause the one that I saw had like pirate pictures and stuff in
Yeah.
it too, and I loved it. I was like,
I know.
but it was almost $50.
Yeah,
Ooh.
but didn't that one come with like, the Book of Mormon or something like that, or?
Yeah, the
Oh,
one
it
one
might
of
have
them
had
does,
something else in
yeah.
it too, 'cause it-
And
I
they'll
think I looked at one that was like $74.99, I was like, nope.
and they'll deliver it to you, and you'll have a little Bible study.
The little guy on the bicycle gonna ride it over to me.
Yeah.
Come on.
they're like, that house right there.
Yep, let's
You're
study.
Nationally marked.
So they're like, here's your Bible. I'm out.
They won't ever find the house.
Over here, no, they won't find it. All right, do you ladies have the wheel ready to go? All right, so everybody's on there 6 times, so everybody gets an equal amount of. Doesn't really change much of anything. Does it? I'm kidding about the 6 times. All right, the conclusion on the back or / summary of these chapters. Everybody's reunited in Egypt. Joseph forgives his brothers. Famine drives them to safety. Jacob blesses his grandsons, setting the stage for future prominence and prosperity before his passing. And he doesn't quite pass away yet, but it's
It's coming.
all these chapters just kind of blur together. It's all within the same context. All right, so let's turn over to the front side of the sheet. I was telling the family a couple of days ago, I was going to do something fun, goofy for the last class, and I forgot to do it. On the fill in the blanks, on one of them, I was just going to leave the word in the blank. And then y'all would be really confused why I did that, and you'd be like, "What's going on with Brian?" But I forgot to do that. So anyway,
Is that right? Your brother threw us off without any bullet points.
yeah, I threw you off with the bullet points, and it's print them out again.
So just make copies of the one that you have that's got all your notes on it, and then just give us those.
I was just telling Jody this. I've gotten these questions from various sources. Obviously, some of them were created and messed up because I wanted to work through it too. Because a lot of times you just get stuff that's already pre-done, and nope. I mean, I work it out, and I got arrows and messes, and you guys obviously have been my guinea pigs for some of these questions, especially the closer we've gotten to the end. So it's been fun, and
We definitely know everybody's reading now.
yeah, 'cause you're like, where
Up
is
until
that?
maybe,
Yeah.
Maybe everybody could be scanning through it, but there was a couple questions where it was like, if you didn't read, you might have missed it.
See, maybe that thought question was a trick question to see if you read it. I don't know. All right, did you guys spin the wheel?
Yes, it's Chloe.
All right, Chloe, you get the first fill in the blank. Genesis 47 and verse 9.
And Jacob said to Pharaoh, these days of the year.
Whoa, time out, Chloe.
Oh, your voice changed suddenly.
Sorry, and Jacob said to Pharaoh.
All right, keep going, Chloe. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just thrown for a loop there for a second.
And Jacob said to Pharaoh, these days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained to the days of the years of my life of my fathers and the days of their privilege. Wow, there's a tongue twister and a half.
All right, thank you, Chloe. Did everybody get the word days? The days of the years of my life. All right. Good job so far.
Evil has been the days.
That is a sad description.
Yeah.
And
He's
he
not wrong though, so.
was old.
Yeah.
Really, really, really old. Had a rough life. All right. Good job. If you could spin the wheel.
It's me.
All right, Rachel.
So is Chloe gonna read it?
So when
Genesis,
the money,
Genesis 47:15, very loud.
so when the money failed in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, "Give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the money has failed."
All right, money. Money is the blank. Now, I think
I
they've,
would say this week that they're basically the same person.
or
Old lady, you're getting me confused.
I, there for a second, thought they were trying to figure out a way to hack the wheel. You're going to give people ideas to switch answers and stuff.
If anybody else felt, I mean, this is political, but I mean, there's been political talk about our money failing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so it's that's kind of a little bit later, I think. Well, question number 3 from the text. At least in my answer, I put a little bit more in there. All right. Who's next on the Addison? Genesis 47 verses 29 and 30
Time drew near.
is going on.
That Israel must die. He called his son Joseph and said to him, "Now I have found favor in your sight. Please put your hand under my thigh and deal kindly and truly with me. Please do not bury me in Egypt, but let me lie with my fathers. You shall carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burial place."
All right. Favor and carry are the blanks. We're not going to talk about that phrase, hand under my thigh. We've talked about that before. I mean, if you're going to do that, and we've talked privately off stream about that, you're going to take that vow very seriously.
Yes.
Right? It's serious. It's serious to do that. All right. So favor and carry. Just curious, did you all have this planned before class? Were you like sending out messages to one another? Hey, we're going to throw the teacher off tonight and change.
That's that card game that nobody knows the rules except for the person who starts it.
Ah, that game. Yeah.
Everybody continued that.
Yeah.
For me, like the person who left reads for me.
Yeah, that would have been really funny.
And then between you and Nita, you had to figure out what the rule was.
All right, well, I'm curious. Who's next on the wheel?
It's Chloe.
Okay, Rachel, Genesis 48, verse 5.
And now your 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt, are mine. As Reuben and Simeon shall be mine.
All right, the word there is mine. Very good. Everybody got that? Okay, and we'll move on to the last fill in the blank, Genesis 48:20, and that goes to. All right, Rachel, Genesis 48:20. Take it away.
So he blessed them that day, saying, "By you Israel will bless, saying, May God make them as Ephraim and Manasseh." And thus he set Ephraim before Manasseh.
All right, very good. Set would be the word. Everybody got 100% on that so far? All right.
What happened?
No, uh-oh.
In Genesis 27, I put buried instead of carried.
So which one?
Carried out and buried out.
Uh,
I put buried later in the deal, I missed it. I got it.
That's funny
Well.
that you put that there, because that was what I was initially gonna put until I reread the verse again.
well, Glenn, I'll see you next Wednesday before a little early. Sorry, Florida. All right. Hey, don't feel bad. It happens to all of us from time to time. I can't explain how I messed up that one time. I don't know. I think maybe for me anyway, scanning through, reading through the text, you see the word, and then maybe your eyes shift or something, and then you see a different word, and yeah, I don't know. I could make excuses all day long. All right. I don't know who's in charge of spinning the wheel anymore. You guys have changed identities.
You are.
It's Chloe again.
I have. It's Chloe again?
Wow.
Well, terms to define, whichever one is answering it. The word is competent.
Suitable, qualified, and capable.
Okay. All right. Very good. Anybody got anything
Of
extra?
activity,
Of
army, man and of valor, forces valiant and strength.
Okay,
And probably force, whether men means, or other resources and army, wealth, virtue, valor, strength, able band of men.
okay. Anybody got anything else?
Worthy and great power, or goods, great might or great strength.
Okay. Anybody else?
Sufficient, adequate.
Sufficient, adequate, all right. So, I mean, I heard a lot of the same things that I have here in my definition. To know, understand, be acquainted with something, be able to do something. Do you guys remember the context this word was being used?
Yes, he said if any of your brothers or like their men, if you know anybody, they can be in charge of being shepherds for Pharaoh.
Yeah,
To
so,
take care of his flocks.
Yeah, the chief.
So-
yeah, the chief shepherds, yeah.
So he wanted people that he could trust. He knew he could trust Joseph, so he wanted Joseph to appoint those that Joseph trusts,
Right.
because Pharaoh would trust who Joseph trusts.
Yeah, so Pharaoh was giving Joseph the job to find competent, able-bodied men who knew how to do the
Take care of all
job
his animals.
to take care of the. Did anybody notice the Hebrew word by any chance? Do you remember what the Hebrew word was? I just thought it was kind of interesting. Yada, like yada yada yada. Anyway,
Funny.
I don't even know how that relates to. I don't know. Didn't they say that on Seinfeld a lot? Not that I watched that show very much, but enough that I knew that they said that. All right, how's the wheel going over there?
It's me.
It's okay. It's pilgrimage,
A foreign residence.
foreign resident. Okay, all right. That would be one way you could define it.
Also has sojourning place or to be a stranger.
Okay,
And in the sense of lodging, a temporary abode by extension of a permanent residence or a dwelling.
all right.
I guess prolonged journey or journey undertaken for a religious motive.
Okay.
I saw that and I didn't want to write it all.
I did.
That's a lot of writing. Like, I'm gonna go with the short answers.
All right. Any other definitions anybody wants to share?
Pretty much what I had.
Yes.
Covered it all.
So the sense of wandering in a strange land, sojourning in a foreign land. Laura, how did you put that again? Like,
In the sense of lodging, a temporary abode by extension of a permanent residence or a dwelling.
so it kind of reminds me of like being in a tent, and they would use those portable tents, right? Tabernacle was that kind of, it's not your permanent dwelling place, but it's temporary lodging. And that was the way Jacob viewed his life. All right. We're going to go on to the next definition.
Chloe.
What is going on over
I
there?
the only two on
This
the wheel.
wheel is cracking
We
me
didn't
up.
plan this. We started at the beginning of class, now the wheel just hates me.
All right. The word languished.
Withered or weakened?
Withered or weakened. All right. That's a good short definition.
I liked this. I thought it added so much more emotion to this sentence.
Okay.
They were like figuratively insane or rabid, from exhaustion of frenzy, faint and mad. So like hunger was driving them crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting.
All right. Any other definitions?
To burn.
To burn. Okay.
Sing out in an unpleasant or unwanted situation for a long time,
Okay.
It's funny how one little word can like mean
to
so
be
much.
made weak.
Yeah. So this was a description of the land. So that land was, another definition that I had was be exhausted, fainting from thirst. Boy, have you ever seen land that is dry and parched? It feels like every summer we kind of go through that, at least in this area, right? Early spring, you get a lot of that rain, and then for some reason, July and August, things are dry. And you can go outside and the grass is crunchy and just, it's like, boy, you just,
And like if you spill water on it, it's
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it's
like it
just,
was never even there.
right,
Or it's so dry, the water just runs right off.
Yes, yeah.
yeah, so that languished in reference to the land could also describe the way the people were, right? Just, because if the land's not providing, and then any moisture that might come along, it's going to be, and last week we were talking even about the Nile River. I'm sure during this time period of the Nile River was, when you get into periods of lack of rain and all that, yeah, it's gonna be dry, yeah, very low.
It's probably, I mean, it's one thing for you to be going through this also, but to see your kids, grandkids, and your livestock, your livelihood all withering away.
Water is life.
Mm-hmm.
And and food, and so not only do you have to provide for yourself and your family, and then they had servants, and then you have your animals. That's your livelihood, right? That's your job, your occupation, and then probably not just them, but maybe other people that you care about, family, friends. So, oops. All right.
Well, it doesn't say, but I mean, it does say that we may die also. So I mean, like, there had to be death.
Oh yeah, there was probably people dying. Yep.
A famine this widespread.
Yeah, I think we talked about this before. The Greek translation talks about the famine being mega, like it was huge, and it was growing in intensity over the, if there's a famine for a season, people can deal with kind of that, 2 years maybe, but to go, 7 years, that's gonna, probably. All right.
Maddening.
Yeah. All right. The next definition goes to. All right, Addison. You get the word strengthened.
I wanted this one.
I thought this was interesting. So I saw to fasten upon, to seize, to bind on, and to restrain.
Okay. Huh. I didn't see any of those definitions, but all right.
I mean, he just kind of sat up, he was just leaning against the back, like he's not
Well,
literally.
Well,
So I had-
what are some other
I
definitions?
had hold, hardened, stronger to grow strong. So I think he wanted to like sit up and like, okay, I am okay. Bring him in. Like instead of being.
Yeah.
He
Resource
strengthened
is a really
himself
interesting word.
Was it
to.
conquer?
That-
Yeah.
Yes.
And I defined it. It's caulker, Calker, and it means strengtheners of seams of the decks or the sides of a vessel. So that ideal that you're kind of bolstering it up in that last moment.
Yes.
So-
Dictionary.com says a similar device on the heel or sole of a shoe to prevent slipping.
Huh, interesting. So I just put to grow stout, get stronger. I'm seeing this, obviously this was in reference to Jacob, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of on his deathbed. I mean, he's really close. He's not dying yet, but it's his last days, and he's mustering up all the strength that he can get to be able to talk to the family one last time. So, second wind, maybe, kind of thing. Adrenaline, maybe,
And
taking place here.
he's the patriarch, so I mean, he doesn't want to show weakness. Like, I mean, he's trying really hard to be the father.
And I think oftentimes I have seen where, like, towards the end of someone's life, like, they're really sick, and all of a sudden they bounce back out of nowhere, and it's like, wow, and then they're gone
I forget
within a
what they
couple
call
weeks.
it. There's a
Yeah,
name for
so-
that.
It's
It's
called
almost like a-
strengthening.
Almost everybody does that.
Yeah,
It's-
so,
Almost everybody.
It's almost like
They gotta get their last minute things done.
Right.
that, and like a pregnant mother, like nesting is what it's
Mhm.
almost like. But yeah, I forget what the name of it is. But
the
yeah.
awakening.
Well, you just,
Yeah.
Laura, you just gave yourself some homework for next week. You can figure out what that medical word is and then share it with us next week. For next week. Anyway, you spin the wheel. You spin the wheel. No
Just go
pressure. Strengthen.
Yeah.
No
I'll
pressure.
Use the definition of like the word for the definition. Like,
Yeah.
That's weird to me.
Yep.
All right, Mom.
This one I thought was so weird.
All right, portion. We
Portion.
talked about this
I
earlier.
can't believe I got this one. Shoulder, back, and it does say it's figurative.
Okay.
So I mean, there's so much more than like shoulder or back.
Okay,
I mean,
okay,
so it's like,
okay. So hold on. Did anybody else
Yeah.
get a?
The neck as the place of burden.
Okay,
Yeah,
so yeah, so
But then
it's,
I
yeah.
could also get part of a whole or a destiny.
So when you butcher an animal, you portion it out. So it's like it's distributed.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's distributing the blessings to.
Well, when I saw it considered the place of burdens, when you carry something, you typically are going to put it like something heavy. You're going
Yeah.
to put it,
Like
on your
strong
shoulders and you,
Getting
towards your,
portion
yeah.
of it, but they're not, so it kind of is an added burden on his shoulders
Yeah.
to take care of it.
Oh, she's got the word. She's got the word.
It is terminal lucidity. A
Oh.
term for the burst of energy that can occur just before death. It's also known as rallying, terminal rally,
Yeah, that's
the
right.
rally, end of life experience, energy surge, the surge, or
And awakening.
pre-mortem surge.
Interesting.
Boredom is so
Interesting. Well, that kind of describes what was going on here. Yeah. All right. Did anybody else get a different definition that you'd like to share for the word portion?
It's a part, piece, divide, share something, a serving, allotted part.
Okay.
We sort of had, the neck between the shoulders as the place of burdens, and then figuratively, the spur of a hill and consent. I didn't understand what those were, but I don't know.
Somebody else's back and shoulders all of a sudden just start aching.
I know. Mine did a little bit there.
Like, man, feeling the burden.
All right. So everybody's doing good so far on the definitions? 100%?
Sure.
Sure.
We'll go with that.
Can I just get a star?
Yeah, you just
Participation
Gary.
trophy.
give yourself stars,
A for effort.
smiley faces. Mr. Glenn's got
If
a.
you wanna take the last one, I have part of an estate received by an heir,
Okay.
Portion.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
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 so I'm right.
Yeah. Sounds good. It's just a weird way to define that. It came from
Yeah,
a
Strong's
strange.
was weird.
Yeah.
Like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
Like, are we defining this? And I had to re-look it up. Like, did I mess up on what word I'm looking up?
But sometimes giving those portions out, sometimes people will get better portions than other people.
Yes.
And
Joseph,
And
two of
just-
his children got a portion.
yeah, well, and
And they were also blessed as Jacob's children.
and it's interesting. None of the sons had a problem with that.
No?
Right, because they've learned their lesson
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah. All right. Hey, you two stop marking on each other and spin the wheel. Oh, they already spun the wheel. All right, Granny, you get a question from the text number 1. Describe Pharaoh meeting Joseph's family.
I just put Jacob bless Pharaoh.
Okay. Jacob bless. That's something that he certainly did. Yeah, which is kind of interesting. I thought that was interesting. Did anybody else think that was interesting? You have a man who's patriarch blessing a political leader. That's kind of. But as other commentators point out, that shows you that Jacob knew his place and what God's plan was.
And also, there has to be very heartfelt that he has taken such good care of Joseph. I mean,
He's probably very thankful.
he's very, very thankful that Joseph is alive and that he's doing so well, and it's all because of Pharaoh. I mean, God, but I mean, Pharaoh allowing him to be that way. I thought it was interesting that he only brought 5 brothers to introduce. He didn't want to overwhelm them with, here's the crowd, just 5 brothers to introduce to Pharaoh. And then they left, and then he brought in his father. So it's like he didn't want to overwhelm Pharaoh with all of his 12 brothers and, their family, and like everybody comes to meet the king. you know, he just kept it small.
I'm reading some of these comments. Hey, glad you're watching. We're in Genesis 47 and 48. If you want to turn over there, we can look at Genesis 2. I'll look at it later. So Pharaoh met Jacob, right? And what was the question Pharaoh asked Jacob?
How old he was?
He looked at him and go, "How old are you?" I don't know. I read that. I was like, "Wow, you just traveled what 700-800 miles, maybe more, 1,000 miles,
Actually,
and
this was
how
customary.
He's 130 years old.
to ask him his age."
Yeah, it's a customary tradition that you ask, like, you know, how old are you? You ask
It's a
their
sign of respect.
occupation.
Yeah, it would
it's
be a
like
sign of respect.
Mutual respect.
Yeah. How old was Jacob at this time?
130.
130. Yeah, he was old.
Oh, man.
All right, very good.
But not nearly as old as his dad had been.
Yes.
No, so that is something.
He looks
Yeah.
much older than what he actually was.
So something that is interesting going through the book of Genesis, you see the declining
Yeah.
of the ages.
Stress.
Yeah, it's what?
It's stress.
Well, it was after the flood. You had the
Yeah,
world
yeah.
was not, or you know, well, yeah, the flood because then,
And then Babel.
and then after, which Babel took place. You know, not too long after that. Well, it was all built up again, and then and you see that age progressively getting shorter and
So I had
shorter.
also
Doesn't mean that there wasn't anomalies though, because some people did live
Yeah.
longer.
I had also added that it went well, and in fact, he offered for them to be his chief herdsman as well. So
All right, yeah, okay. Any other?
Yeah, I just said it was cordial on both
Cordial,
sides, and
yeah.
I added all of what Jody already said, so.
Yeah, I mean, the Pharaoh was over the top, like very friendly
Yeah.
and and it could have been bad. I
Well,
mean, it
especially
could
when
have.
they said they were shepherds.
Shepherds,
He-
yeah.
I mean, that was not a thing that they did.
They were
he could've said them
abominations.
outright then, but
Yeah.
like, I don't want to
Yeah.
speak to you. I don't.
Yeah.
well,
And
like
then probably had his palace scrubbed after they.
But like Jody said, Joseph being there, he saw Joseph. He knew Joseph. Yeah, he
Yeah.
thought highly of Joseph, and
Yeah.
yeah, and Joseph being a shepherd. I mean, so maybe he sees that Joseph isn't such an abomination, so the family's not going to be so bad.
yeah. All right, we're gonna spin the wheel. All right, Anita, where was Joseph's family situated?
In Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramses, and Pharaoh had commanded.
All right, you got a verse reference for that? Of verse 11, yeah. So 47:11.
Yeah.
I don't know why I started asking that. So
Verse references you need to mention on here.
real
I
quick.
don't remember when I'm filling these up. Verse references.
Real quick, we never said that like before. I think before I was giving people the references, and then I stopped giving the references.
Yes.
So make us dig a little deeper. Who wrote this? Anybody remember who wrote the book of Genesis? All right, so it was Moses. So Moses wrote this way after the fact, right? So the land of Ramses, that didn't exist yet.
Yeah, they didn't know Ramses. That wasn't in their.
Right. So it would be like today we say, well, President Abraham Lincoln, when he was in kindergarten, did whatever. He really wasn't President Lincoln when he was in kindergarten, but it's using that retrospectively. So anyway, in Exodus 1:11, we do see that the Israelites actually built. That was one of the storage cities that Pharaoh had built. Exodus 1:11,
1 verse 11, or
chapter 1, verse 11. Yeah, 1:11.
I know there's not 111.
Yeah, not 111. Yeah, so there's a couple of storage cities, and Ramses would be one of them, and he used the Israelites, their slave labor, to build that city. So,
Couldn't you have used 47:27?
for the answer for this question,
I mean, didn't have the word situated, I didn't see the situated, but I used 27.
Yeah.
47, you said verse 27?
Yeah.
27, yeah, you could use that, yeah. I used verse 11 just because it said
Because you had situated.
it had situated in it. Yeah. But that's, yeah, I mean, I could jot that down as well. But I'm not going to give myself a frowny face because I missed that reference. All right, question number 3 goes to, again, hey, Anita. All right, how did Egypt acquire land and people, and what was the exception?
Joseph gathered all the money of Egypt, and in the land of Canaan, he took money to Pharaoh's house. The money fell in the land, and the people came to him, and he bought their land and animals.
All right, very good.
And I don't know why, I missed that, I didn't do the second part.
You didn't do the
of that.
second part, the exception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
This is the land of the priests.
okay, so the land of the priest.
They already had a fixed allowance from Pharaoh to live on, so they didn't sell back the land.
Yeah, so the priests didn't sell the land back. They were given rations, chapter 47:22. I just basically put, when there was no more money, so there was that economic collapse. I mean, the money's all gone. Everybody spent all their money. And then they moved into bartering their animals, right? They're bringing their animals into Egypt. And then when there's no more animals to trade, now what are we going to do?
Honored themselves.
And
Yeah,
that
what I
was the
said.
next step.
People
Yeah.
offered themselves as a bird, that's what I said.
Yep, that was the next step. They brought themselves in. They were willing to become slaves to Egypt.
Kind of reinforcing that idea that they were languishing in hunger.
Yes.
You'd be really desperate, wouldn't you, to be willing to turn yourself over? So that's how Egypt, so prior to this, Egypt wasn't this massive nation. So not only did the Israelites grow, but now you have Egypt growing because they're acquiring money,
All this
land,
stuff, all
and the people. You
And
know,
then they got
that's
the people to work as slaves and build things for them. Awesome.
sad how that
With a good
worked out.
attitude,
Yeah.
Well, maybe originally.
originally.
I want
Yeah.
to point out before we spin the wheel, if my mom answers the rest of the questions, that'll have been 9 questions she got to answer.
Almost 10.
Oh, that's
Boy,
funny.
She was only asking for 6.
Thank you. Just kind of observing these comments that are coming in on the chat box here. All right, so question number 4 is going to go to Anita. Oh, well, hey, Vera. Or unless your mom wants to answer that for you. No, okay. What were the names of Joseph's sons?
Manasseh and Ephraim.
All right. That's pretty
That was pretty easy.
easy. That's right. And I don't have a
I
whole
was like,
lot
look,
of.
I don't think I can get that one wrong.
Actually, I was going to write their
Reference.
Hebrew names too, but I didn't.
Do
And I
you?
wrote their mother's name down, but I sure can't say it.
Yeah, that wasn't. Was that Potipharah? Was that their mother's name? I don't remember right
Yes.
off.
Yes,
Okay.
it was.
Okay. I remember he was married to her. I couldn't remember if that was still the case there. Jody, did you say you have a verse reference?
Well, I do, but Edison said it.
Oh, I didn't hear her. What did you say?
48-1.
48. All right. We almost had a fight breaking out over giving the cross reference. That's funny. All right. And then we're going to get to the last question. Goes to. Wow, Vera. All right. Describe Israel or Jacob's blessing Joseph's sons.
Right on. There was a whole bunch of hand movement.
It got a little confusing, didn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
I
Could
said
have said how many
After
hands are
claiming
in
them
this.
as his own offspring, he blessed them. Ephraim above Manasseh, they would both become great nations, but Ephraim, the younger brother, would become the greater and more descendants, a multitude of nations.
okay, so Jacob crossed his hands, switched them. Who was on the right hand?
Manasseh? No.
Well, who was with the right hand?
right
Who
hand
did he
was
hold up?
because
Ephraim.
the right hand is the blessing.
Okay, and then so the left hand ended up being on Manasseh, the firstborn.
It was like a
Does the right hand signify
the right hand man, because the right hand of God, that's where Jesus is.
that's the place of, so there's been, so it's a place of honor, it's a place of power, it's a place of it's a great position. And so to put your right hand on the younger, so what Joseph,
No, Dad.
yeah.
Switch your hands around.
So Joseph was a little bit upset, right? And he tries to fix it.
He's like, I know.
Yeah. And then the dad's like,
You
no,
don't see well.
no,
Let me fix this for you.
no. He pressed the Grogu button. No.
Right, no.
And then so Manasseh would be the great tribe. I mean, but younger would Manasseh would be great, but the younger Ephraim would be greater, right? So Jody and I were talking a little bit about this earlier. Ephraim was more powerful as tribes go in the history of Israel. In fact, after the split of the two kingdoms, this is much later on in Israel history. After Solomon died, you remember there was that splitting of the ways. You had the southern tribes. The southern tribes we usually call Judah, but Benjamin was part of that. So you had Judah, and then you had to the north, they called them Israel, but there's other references that would refer to them as being Ephraim. So you had 10 tribes kind of lumped in there as Ephraim. All right. So anybody got any cross references in regards to that whole? It was a big section, really. It was verses 12 through 20 of chapter 48. Was the blessing of Joseph's sons. Anybody have anything extra
I
on
said
that?
he called them his own.
Call them his own,
I mean,
which
that's kind of powerful there. And he says they're both gonna be great, you know.
so he didn't look down on them in a derogatory way of not being pure blood, I guess you could say.
They
They
were
were-
outsiders, but he
yep.
called them their own,
Yep.
his own.
Very loving. Yep. All right, so now we're going to get up to some of the thought questions here. So if you're watching this online, we do have thought questions online. You can go to our website. You can follow. There's a description in the description. Follow the link. You can download the questions from over there. The next question goes to Addison. And give her a second to finish her drink of yummy lemon water. The first thought question is, does Joseph's plan succeed through divine providence or his own cunning intelligence?
I said I think both. I think Joseph is a wise businessman, and God's hand is definitely involved through all of it, allowing him to succeed.
All right. I mean, the summary there is, I pretty much put the same through a little bit of both. Anybody got anything different, extra you want to share?
That was it.
I just put divine providence.
Okay.
Joseph couldn't have pulled this off by himself.
Well, he certainly couldn't have done that by himself. And there are references specifically to God, right? Chapter 40 and verse 8, that was earlier, obviously. But, how did Joseph know what the dreams meant? Well, it was because God gave him the interpretation to it. And then chapter 50, verse 2, right? We've not gotten there yet, but, the brothers intended bad, but God had a different plan. God intended what happened to him for good. So there's references to God's providence. Some had suggested, and I really didn't think about this until just, thinking more about this. Some have suggested that the famine could have been a test for Joseph and his family as well, to see how that they would react as a people through all this. Well, that was pretty interesting. And then you have fulfillment of God's promises, and that goes back to Abraham, right? God promised to bless all nations through his descendants, Genesis 12, verses 2 and 3. So clearly you have God working through all this. And then Joseph, he knew that there was a famine coming, right? Did God tell him exactly how to plan it all out and do it?
No, we're not told
No.
that.
No. So it took some ingenuity on Joseph's part to put these plans into action. Shows he had good leadership skills. He knew some of the culture that was going on around him. Obviously, he would have been trained in that. And some of his personal qualities to guide everybody through all of that. But, so just a quick summary I have on the side of my paper here. God allowed things to happen, but Joseph still had to make decisions and kind of navigate through all of that. So, I guess to kind of parallel that to our lives, I know I've used this illustration in the past. It's like well, if you need a job, you lose your job, and you pray about it. You got to do something in order to get that job, though, right? And God could put job opportunities before you. You need to do something personally to acquire that. So Joseph needed to put forth a plan to help navigate all that, I guess. All right. Any other thoughts?
I had just added, that his family was put into a place of power just coming in. So, I mean, not only were they just mere shepherds, they were foreigners, sojourners coming in, and then they were given, the best of the land, head over his Pharaoh's herds, and they were in a place of power just coming in. So that was, whether that was part of Joseph's plan when he said, as you know, we're going to talk about Goshen there, because he knew that that was a fertile land, and that all the animals were going to be going there. But
So Joseph knew Pharaoh well enough that Pharaoh was going to ask certain things of them.
yes,
Yeah. All right, very good. And I do apologize. There's like not much room to write everything down, so that's what makes some good thought questions, because you can have these
I don't like to
thoughts
mess it up when he's got a four.
in your
It's
head.
all over the place.
All over the place. All right. So we're going to go to question 2.
It's Chloe.
Okay, Chloe, I'm excited to see what your answer is. Jacob prioritizes the younger Ephraim. Does this defy tradition or reveal a deeper message about God's favor?
Yes, it.
Say that again, please, Chloe.
Yes, it.
Yes and? Am I here?
Yesn't. It's yes and no.
Yes and no.
That's their
Okay. All right, well, can anybody else, did you elaborate, or is that all you put?
It's actually more than what was put down.
Okay.
I said both.
Okay, you said both. Okay. So he did defy tradition, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, it's usually the oldest one that gets the priority.
Yeah. So
Well,
Jacob
figure it
knew.
happened all down the line.
Yeah.
Jacob and Esau, and then.
Yep. Jacob knew
his brothers.
Jacob knew the tradition. He lived it, right? He went through that, so he knew.
Just keep it up.
Yeah.
Okay, it's worked so far, why change now?
Yeah.
And I did say it does define a deeper, let's see, what did you have here? Reveal a deeper message from God's plans.
Yeah, so I guess I've already shared that a little bit in my answer from before, but there was deeper meaning and foreshadowing, right? That they were going to be more dominant in the future. Ephraim was going to be more dominant, and then we also see that there was parallels to the past,
Yes.
like we already mentioned. Jacob was part of that.
Also
And,
the future,
Yep.
because God is he's not confined like by the traditions of men, and he will use people that we think of as lesser people for bigger purposes.
Yep. So Jacob over Esau, Judah. How about Judah? Judah was more blessed than the others, and he wasn't the firstborn.
No,
So a lot
in line.
several parallels there going on, past and future. All right, very good. Boy, we have a few left, and we got just a few minutes left. All right, the next question goes to.
My grandma.
All right, Anita.
Well, that's 9, isn't it?
9.
No,
D-
No,
Despite reunion, do the brothers and Joseph still carry emotional scars from past betrayals?
I said, I think they would because they are human, but then I put the reference of 50-15 because it said, the brothers did say, perhaps Joseph will hate us and may actually repay us for all evil which we did to him.
Yeah, so the brothers really in Joseph's interaction wasn't talked a whole lot about in these couple of chapters. However, the brothers were still alive and they still existed. And you have that kind of that overarching theme going all through these chapters, because we were talking a little bit about that earlier. But do you think Joseph's initial behavior toward them might have created some lingering
Yes, because,
concern?
I mean, there's a whole lot of testing them, and so
Yeah.
I mean, they've got to be at this point like, does he really, has he forgiven us? Because it seems like he's still holding this and making us pay for it. So
Yeah.
See, I didn't think so, because I think in the beginning it was a test just to see if they did change, but I don't think he really held anything against them, because he ended up giving them the best of the land.
Well, I don't,
But
no, to them, not necessarily Joseph. Yeah,
Because
but,
they need reassurance several times.
Despite all those tests,
Yeah.
they didn't question him when he
Yeah.
told them to tell Pharaoh
They did what
they
he
were
said.
shepherds, even though
Yeah.
they knew Pharaoh was not gonna like that.
well, once you get to chapter 50, they still seem to have some fear, some concern, and then the dad was gone. Dad died. Now what's he gonna do?
Well, and I think that's a big thing is like, okay, he forgave us while Dad was here because
Yeah.
maybe he thought that's what Dad would expect of him. But maybe now that Dad's gone, what will he do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it does seem that Joseph was willing to forgive them. He provided for them, all
Yeah,
the family.
I added that he not only did he provide for them, but he made sure they had the best of
Yeah.
things. And he wanted
Yeah.
them close to him.
Yeah.
Like he
So-
could have like, let's put you way over here so I don't have to deal
Yeah.
with you. But he wanted his family close to them.
Yeah, and the provisions weren't just like leftovers. It wasn't like, hey, we're getting to the bottom of the granary. We'll give you the scraps on the bottom that all the rodents have been
You
rummaging
notice
through.
that they didn't
No.
come selling any cattle in themselves.
No, they didn't
slavery
give up
to
their,
live.
yep.
Yeah.
And then even in chapter 49, where Jacob's calling everybody together, you start seeing this, and I know we've not gotten there quite yet, but you can see this unity amongst the family, right? They're all coming together,
Bonding.
yeah, bonding, healing, moving forward. But it required them to come together in order to have that. All right. Question number 4 is going to go to. Wow, Anita, between the young people table and you, how does Joseph's leadership style impact the lives of the Egyptians and his own family? And are there parallels to modern leadership models?
He helped them learn how to live together, how to forgive, how to manage money and all the things that they have. He always trusts God, and yes, if we will follow Jesus' example, we would be better off.
Excellent. Very good. That's a great way to put it. Basically what I put, just a little shorter. Anybody have anything extra? Would you like to add to that?
I have his ideas save the Egyptians and his family. And the second part, good ideas work.
Okay, good ideas work. Yep.
He made Egypt great again.
Put it on a t-shirt. He did help them be prosperous, right? He helped the Egyptians be prosperous. Like we said, he helped the nation grow immensely. He helped his family prosper. They were able to grow. And so you can imagine being out there in this protected land, great land, the best of the land. You know, you're not going to have invaders coming in and messing with you. Now their flocks are going to grow and their families are going to, in fact, you get to the book of Exodus and they just multiplied, right? There was centralized power, which kind of streamlined things. Joseph was in charge of everything that's going on here. He didn't have people micromanaging him. Right? There was no, Pharaoh was not guessing him, second guessing him. Pharaoh would say, hey, this is what we need to do. Pharaoh would let him do it. I did put down, some people said, well, maybe there was some possible Egyptian resentment within the nation, maybe towards Joseph just because he was an outsider. I don't know. Jody and I had this discussion earlier saying, wonder how many people really knew Joseph wasn't truly an Egyptian. He dressed, he was young when he came in. He would have been taught. He walked like an Egyptian. When he cooked, he walked like an Egyptian. I mean, he would have been trained in the culture of the Egyptians.
He obviously spoke the language, so
Yeah.
I don't think that there was.
And he was fluent in it, right? So
And they
it's
obviously, I mean, look at these are Egyptian people that are coming to him. This isn't outsiders. These are Egyptians that are willing to sell themselves.
Yep.
So they're submitting to his authority.
Yep.
And it's not like they're like complaining about his authority. We never
Yeah,
hear that
right.
in any of this text.
So I'm not sure why that even came up in some of the things I was looking at. As far as, can I just add this? As far as leadership goes, he was a visionary. and he planned.
Yep.
So he knew I was coming, and he planned
For the future.
ahead of time. He didn't wait till 6 years into the famine.
Yeah.
He didn't wait 6 months before the famine. He was all part of in crisis management.
Yeah,
He-
forward thinking was the word that I used.
Yep.
He didn't just plan for just during this famine. He planned for, I'm going to use this famine to make sure that Egypt is prosperous after. Because remember, he's storing these
Yep.
things up, so he's using only portions of it to make sure everybody's taken care of. But the rest of it's being stored up so
Yep.
that they have a future.
So
after
even the
famine.
future, yeah. So crisis management, navigating through that, dealing with that. He rose to power based on his faithfulness to God, right? And his talents and abilities that God gave him. So Joseph blessed all those around him because of his faithfulness to put God first in his life. And I think that is a huge thing for everybody. If we're putting God first, aren't we going to be a blessing to everybody around us?
Yes.
Okay, but it's God first.
Yes.
God first, and not me first or whoever first.
And
And-
I actually think if people would think that they were gonna be running out of food, they would not waste so much. People waste so much food.
Oh yeah, at least here in the United States they do. Yeah, and it's a blessing and a curse, I guess you could say, to borrow that phrase for a monk, because we're blessed with all the resources that we have, and we take it for granted.
Yeah.
And you think about, some of these other countries that don't have the things that we have. It's pretty sad. And things could change here, couldn't they? They could. All right, we're going to get to the last question.
Oh,
All
I was
right.
gonna say,
You're going to go over there and take care of that wheel, weren't you?
Grandmom.
Grandmom. All right, question 5, Vera. What was Israel's attitude about its own life? And there's a cross-reference to Hebrews 11. What's the application to us today?
I said he knew he was a sojourner and that this earth was not his home. He knew God would keep his promises to make him a great nation and give him descendants in the promised land, but his hope was laid up in something greater than earthly land and achievements. And I said, that's exactly how we should be today. Our focus should be on our heavenly home.
Yeah, because our earthly life is temporary. We should be striving for that better country.
Nothing here can compare to there.
Nope. Our citizenship is in heaven. Philippians 3:20. And do we live by faith?
Yes.
Jacob didn't see the promises fulfilled that God made
He
him.
just knew they would.
He took it on faith, and he was faithful to the end. And how about a faithful legacy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a good thing to strive for in our lives, right? Leave behind faithful family.
And you think God says you're gonna be a great nation, and then all you see is your 13 kids. And then your kids have a couple of kids, so at this point Joseph had 2 kids. I mean, you're still not seeing this great nation.
No, you're
Out of
seeing
his
the
130
you're seeing some
years.
of the other grandkids that are
Yeah.
maybe there, maybe great grandkids. I mean, he was 130 some years old. He probably saw a couple of greats or whatever, but it's certainly not a huge nation, right?
Right.
But he believes God.
And God's promises aren't always in our lifetime. I mean, this is
Right.
hundreds of years of spanning and it's still not fully.
And they keep
Right,
dying
yeah.
at the point where they've just come into a land that's not their own, it's not the promised land.
So that's why he's looking for the better land. Yeah. Addison, did you?
There was that verse before about being like as immovable as the stars, right? Or something like that,
Yeah.
on the sand, like
Yeah,
you can't-
that's like the sand,
that's what's just-
which is on the seashore.
It's like,
See, I have to pause there, the sand, because it's not sand which is on the seashore. People have called me out on that before, namely my wife. The sand, which is on the seashore. All right, anyway.
okay.
So Abraham he didn't live to see those promises fulfilled either, right? But he took it for faith and he obeyed God. And same thing applies to us today, right? We're just sojourning here. We're just pilgrims passing through. Reminds me of What's that?
Nomads.
Nomads. Kind of reminds me of some songs that we sing, right? And looking forward to Canaan's land, the promised land, the better country. All right. I was going to say who's going to be next on the wheel, but
That was it?
Mr. Glenn.
John finished his radiation yesterday,
Okay.
which was his last treatment. He'll have a CAT scan on the 6th, and then we see the doctor on the 12th.
Okay.
And mom is facing some health issues and possibly a surgery ahead of her, so.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll keep you. Well, but we'll pray for you. And Mr. Glenn, if you could keep Michelle, she's going to have a surgery coming up in the next couple of months. Just keep her in your prayers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Valena, I saw on Facebook, Valena says she's sick.
And her
And,
surgery was supposed to be next week, right?
Would be next Thursday,
Yeah,
right?
so-
Yeah,
But they'll reschedule it if she's not well by then.
Yeah,
As
so
long as she's not running a fever,
Yeah.
it should be okay.
And
But
just
knowing
real
how
quick,
Galena gets sick, she could.
that
get
picnic,
sick.
that picnic that's mentioned in the Bible is Genesis 22:17, if anybody's curious.
you can look at that
Save
after
it for the
class.
future.
That's an after-class discussion to pick on the teacher. Thanks. We'll talk later. All right, Glenn, help us out. Help me out anyway.
Great and kind Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this wonderful class. Thank you so much for Brian who goes through the efforts to make these lessons up for us. Pray that you bless him and be with everybody in this room and bless them. We pray that you be with the sick of our number. We pray that you be with Michelle, who's going to have some surgery coming up soon. Pray that you be with John Barker and pray that be with his wife, who has both of them have some health issues, and we pray that you certainly will be with them and bless them. Pray that you be with our sister Dawn Thornton. Pray that you be with Junior Thacker. And we pray that you be with Lamina, she too is sick and unfortunately has surgery coming up too. So pray that you please be with her. Be with anybody that we haven't forgot. Be with us in our works around here, and pray that you be with us in our lives. Please forgive us for all our sins. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you guys, and thank you for watching on YouTube.